Good evening. So, I want to talk this evening a little bit more about reasons why you haven't been able to get to the root of your anxiety. That pretty much applies to everyone who's listening to this. And I talk about the solutions to anxiety in my holistic anxiety fix, which is a 3-month program designed to support you in getting to the root of your anxiety. So it basically addresses what you haven't likely looked at when it comes to anxiety. So, a lot of times people who are dealing with anxiety, there's a couple of main kind of ways to deal with it. So, one is medication. And I know many of you kind of follow me because you're looking for alternative ways to heal that doesn't involve medication. So medication actually will do something that's called like allopathic healing, which is to get rid of or eliminate the symptoms. So that's what the primary goal of medication is. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't figure out why you actually have these symptoms, right? And so that's kind of where the problem lies with medication. So that's why you're always dependent on medication, or when you go off the medication, the symptoms come back because you haven't gotten to the root of the issue. You have to get to the core of why the anxiety is happening. So the second common approach is CBT. And so it's very, well known in the research that CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, which is a type of therapy, is as effective as medication. So we're looking at two strategies that are pretty much lined up in terms of their effectiveness: medication or CBT. And for some individuals, CBT can be super effective at reducing the anxiety. So the majority of their anxiety is coming from their mindset. That's what that means. There's not a lot of deeper causes. And so when you change the mindset, the anxiety goes away. So they've gotten to the root. The root is their mindset. But for many people, the root is not the core cause of anxiety. For many people, there are other things going on a physiological level. And so you've either treated the anxiety allopathically, or you haven't gotten to the root cause of the anxiety, and that is why your anxiety is still there. So, you can tell yourself to calm down all you want. You can, do all of these allopathic strategies like maybe meditating or talk therapy, or, you can also do the medication that we talked about. And so those are going to reduce the symptoms. And for some, that's the root, but for many, it's not. So as most of you know, I have a background in therapy, and I'm actually still a registered therapist. And I do talk therapy with individuals. That is something that I offer as a part of my packages when I work with people. If there's people that come to me where I think they might need that talk therapy, that's definitely an option. But one of the main reasons that I've actually switched into looking at it holistically, so that's looking at the physiological or biological causes, is that I found that when you're doing therapy, you can bring the anxiety down a little bit, but there's these physiological causes that are really what's underlying it. And those are not necessarily being addressed in any talk therapy session. So I saw this with a lot of my clients. So, I'd work with them and we do CBT and we do talk therapy, and it'd be a great session and they'd kind of leave feeling better, but there would always be this underlying base of anxiety. So I'm not sure if this is you, but if you're listening to this and this is something that you struggle with, kind of give me a thumbs up or an emoji in the comments and let me know that, you've tried talk therapy or medication, or maybe you don't even know where to start and you haven't looked at the underlying root causes. So there are, quite a few root causes that can be underlying your anxiety from a physiological perspective. And these are all things that I talk about in, and we address, some of them are things that we address in the foundational program, the Holistic Anxiety Fix. And then some of them are things that I work on with people when we do one-on-one coaching. And so, those things are the food that you eat, right? So it's going to cause inflammatory response in your body. And when you're getting an immune response, long story short, it's causing differences in your brain chemistry and creating anxiety. The second thing is definitely we want to look at blood sugar. Is your blood sugar balanced? Is that stressing you out? And I've done some lives more specifically in this. And then the other things that I like to do a bit of a deeper dive with is, things like copper toxicity. So watch, in the group, I'm going to be sharing a lot more information about what the heck copper toxicity is and why for the majority of women that I work with, this is a massive root cause. It definitely was a root cause for me. My copper was something like 4 times higher than it was supposed to be. And my anxiety was through the roof. No amount of deep breathing, no amount of yoga, and I did those things and they were helpful, but no amount of it could eliminate my anxiety until I addressed the copper toxicity. The other big thing is mold. So, you don't need to live in a crazy ass moldy basement to have mold be an issue for you. 24% of the population do not clear mold genetically. So this causes insane anxiety in people. So I see mold with people, and then I also see gut infections. So there's a couple of key gut infections. One is a Clostridium infection. So this is very interesting. The Clostridium infection will actually, really impact the dopamine production, and it causes excess dopamine, which causes you to be anxious. So when you clear up the infection, literally it's like taking a magic pill. That anxiety is just like boom, gone. So that's another really big one. And then I also see a lot of limbic system brain damage. And this is where the limbic system starts to loop over and over and over. We see this in PTSD, but we also see it in certain expressions of anxiety. For a variety of reasons, the limbic system gets damaged, and your anxiety only stops when you know how to heal the limbic system. Another big one is worms. This is another one that I struggled with. So I had like a 6-inch worm coming out of me. So you can imagine if you have something that's living inside of you, that's going to trigger anxiety, right? And it doesn't need to be 6 inches. There's like very tiny worms. I've had several of my clients test for worms that had no idea they had worms. One of my clients actually didn't even have major GI symptoms, and there were friendly fellows in there. So these are some of the things that I want you to be familiar with when we think about healing anxiety holistically. Of course, the mindset is important, and that's why I still do therapy. But a bigger piece that everyone is missing is really a lot of these biological, physiological root causes. So if this is new information for you, or if there's something that I've talked about this evening that you would like more information on, definitely post below like, hey, Jody, I want to know more about copper toxicity, or like, tell me more about Clostridium. Message me below and I will do more lives on those topics. Alrighty, have a lovely evening.